Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas with the Honorable Shelley Berkley, former US Congresswoman, former legislator, attorney, CEO of Toro University, and now she's going to be the next Las Vegas mayor. But before we get to Shelley Berkley, Jim, you have any rants?
Actually, I really don't today. I mean, I had something kind of planned. I was going to talk about, that settlement with Dominion Voting Systems and Fox News. But I don't really think it's worth really going
several
into.
hundred million.
Well, it's $787.6 million on a $1.6 billion lawsuit. And Fox News has another one coming out. I forget the name of the company, but they're the ones that run the other so many states. Yeah. Right, yeah, because Dominion Voting Systems runs 20, and this group runs the rest of the states, and they're suing Fox News for $2.7 billion. And just to sum it up real quick, basically they're defamation lawsuits because Fox News, a lot of their well, I might as well just get into it real fast. Okay.
You weren't going to rant, remember?
Right. I get made fun all the time. Yeah, I get made fun of all the time. So in the lawsuit, there were 4 Fox News employees that were mentioned, and they were Lou Dobbs, Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, and Sean Hannity. And so the theory is that Fox News settled when they thought they probably could have won, but they settled because they didn't want these people to have to testify. So they were able to settle out of court because they didn't want them to testify and figure out what goes on behind the scenes. And the reason why I wanted to rant about it is not so much, it's not an anti-Fox News thing necessarily. It's a corporate media thing. Because when you think about settling a lawsuit for $787 million, you're like, wow, that's a lot of money. But Fox News is worth $4.5 billion. So corporations lots of times will do this. They know that this probably is not correct. But because of the majority of Fox News watchers are going to believe anything they have to say, they know that they're not going to lose any viewership over this. So they're still going to make their money anyway. So $787 million, fine, we'll just settle it and it's not going to hurt us at all.
And the insurance company's going to pay that out.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem with the corporate media is that I think they're kind of driving this ideological divide that we have. And Shelley, you know this, like being in Washington for those years, and I think it's even worse now than when you were in Washington. It's just it's so split now.
Very polarized.
That it's like whatever little news media outlet you want to go to, you're going to believe whatever they say. So I think people need to just stop doing that, do their own research, and break away from, or, watch Fox News, that's fine, but watch CNN too, watch MSNBC, watch Veterans of Politics podcasts, watch other news outlets, so you have a more informed opinion of every angle.
I watch them all.
Yeah, so do I.
Because I like to be balanced.
Yeah, me too.
I don't like to be radical on one side or the other.
Yeah.
Do you remember when we were younger, when your family sat down to dinner, you turned on it was either Walter Cronkite or Huntley Brinkley. Before Barbara Walters. And, everybody in the country was watching the same news. Mm-hmm. Now, you could interpret it differently or disagree with it or agree with it, but we were all watching the same thing. Right. Now we're so segmented that if you're on the right, you're primarily watching Fox or Newsmax. If you're on the left, you're going to be watching MSNBC and CNN. So we're not even hearing the same information. And I don't think that's particularly good for our country.
Yeah, me either.
You got to make sure that the city of Las Vegas don't fall in that trap, right?
Oh, I am so excited. First of all, the only reason I'm concerned about being here is that I'm so comfortable with you that it's like, God knows what I'm going to say because I'm not filtering myself at all because we've known each other.
And we're on edited, just to let you know, and live.
100 years we've known each other, so I better be a little cautious.
19 years. Miss Shelley Berkley.
Oh my gosh.
19 years we've known each other.
That's a lot. Was that when you
And
first...
I followed you all the way to Washington, D.C.
I was gonna say you guys. Well, and I think just real quick, not to interrupt, but I think you and Steve are a perfect example, right? Because in the beginning, well, you had mutual respect for each other. You guys didn't necessarily
Not at all.
You weren't as close as you guys are now.
That is true. We have developed a great affection for each other.
And we disagreed to agree.
I honestly, well, look, when I married my husband, he was a Heritage Foundation Republican, and as time went on, he agreed with things that I was saying. I was agreeing with things he was saying, and frankly, I think it made me a more well-rounded person.
So now you're running. Well, before we get to that, you're running for a nonpartisan seat. Right. Excuse me. Could you tell us about yourself, Ms. Berkley?
Yes, absolutely. I'm the granddaughter of immigrants that came to this country in order to escape the Holocaust. If it wasn't for the United States of America, I can guarantee I wouldn't be sitting here today because my family would not have survived. And when they came here, they couldn't speak English. They had no money. The only thing they had was a dream. And that dream was that their children and children's children would have a better life here in the United States than they had where they came from. And I think I'm the very embodiment of my grandparents' American dream. But even I think in their wildest dreams, they never could have imagined that they'd have a granddaughter, 2 generations from when we got here, that served in the United States House of Representatives. I don't think it gets better than that. And as much as I love this country, there's always room for improvement. So you embrace what you have and your good fortune, and you do everything you can to make it better for the next generation. And that has been my philosophy from the start. As you know, I believe in public service. Now leaving Toro, because I'm retiring from Toro June 30th, had nothing at all to do with...
You're the CEO of Toro.
CEO and Senior Provost of Toro.
And here in California.
And one here, I do the Toro here, and I'm the CEO in California as well.
Medical college.
It mostly medical training. So in California, I have a medical school, nursing school, physician assistant program, pharmacy school, which is very, very successful as well. Here we have medical school, a nursing school, but all graduate programs.
You got cadavers in your school.
We have 50 lovely cadavers. 50. And I'm a great believer. Now everybody's doing that virtual stuff. But I believe if somebody is going to operate on me, I want them to have seen the inside of somebody else first. Right. And so we do have the virtual, autopsies. But as long as I'm at Toro, we're going to have the cadavers as well.
Yeah, when I was before I decided to go into business, because I realized the kind of student loan debt I was going to end up with. By the time I got done with I wanted to be a physical therapist.
Oh, so great profession.
Yeah, so we started out with, I'll never forget the class, physiology and anatomy. And I did really good, the classroom. But yeah, the first time we had to go into labs and we saw those cadavers, and you had to actually point out, not on a picture, what is this, but actually see it in the body.
Yeah.
Completely
different. Didn't you come with me when I did the tour at Toro?
Mm-mm. And you wouldn't recognize it now.
Who was I with when I did the tour over there?
Andre Haynes.
I was with Andre?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
how did I mix these two up?
Yeah, that's a good question. You wouldn't recognize the school now. It has been completely redone. It is state-of-the-art. It's beautiful. And it's the largest medical school in the state of Nevada. We graduate 180 future doctors every year.
Could you tell us all the elected seats you held?
Yes. I was student body secretary at Valley High School. You want to go that far back?
Let's go back. Sure.
All right. I was student body president of UNLV. I always knew I wanted a life of public service, went to law school, came back. When I went to law school, there were very few women in law school. So I thought that it would be, it would give me more credibility. But I always planned to come back. to run for office. I was in the Nevada State Assembly. I was on the University Board of Regents. I served 7 terms in Congress. And now, of course, I'm running for mayor of Las Vegas.
What do you say to those critics that says Shelley Berkley has been in politics such a long time? She's a has-been. Let's move on to somebody else. What would you say to those people?
I would say good luck trying to find somebody with more experience that is better suited for this job, that knows more about the city of Las Vegas and has more energy than I do. And yes,
I could contest to that.
I know. And yes, I have been around forever. I grew up here. My family has been here for 60 years. And now there are 4 generations of us. Of course, my parents are deceased, but there's me, there's my children, and now we've got grandchildren. And so we've made a life for ourselves in the middle of the desert. And you know, when my father was a waiter when I was growing up, and we lived in upstate New York, and he was having a very hard time making a living. So one night he put my sister and I and the dog in the back seat of the car, parents in the front seat. Everything we owned was in a U-Haul hooked up to the back bumper. Drove across, no air conditioning in those days, you know, in middle of the summer. And Old Route 66. My dad had a letter of introduction to get a job as a waiter in Southern California. We got to Hoover Dam, you know, passing Hoover Dam. It's probably the same signs are there. Las Vegas, 30 miles. So since my dad really didn't have a job. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. We didn't have to be in school because it was summer. Dog, no plans as far as we knew. We decided to stop in Vegas for the night. Here we are, 60 years later.
And you're still spending that same night here.
I'm still spending the same night. And one of these days, we're going to unpack the U-Haul. So it's just crazy.
So Honorable Shelley Berkley, because I have a great amount of respect for you.
Thank you.
And your service to this country and all your years you spent in Congress. But there's one thing that really stood out, is that Veterans Hospital. Talk to us about it and how you got it here.
That's my proudest accomplishment, Steve. I'm just so, I go over there occasionally and I look around and I talk to people. It's just amazing. My dad, you know, to have my dad going and getting services there in a facility that I helped create was very meaningful to me. I met, when I first became a congresswoman, I set up a series of advisory groups. So I had a Hispanic advisory group and a women's advisory group, an African-American advisory group, I had a veterans group, men and women, because the women didn't want to be in the same advisory group as the men. Why? So I didn't ask, but if they wanted their own group, if they wanted their own advisory group, then I'm all for it. So I'm sitting there at the first meeting with the lady vets, and these are mostly WACs, and you know, from we're talking World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and they were telling me that they wanted a mammogram machine. This is when the Adelaide Del Guy Clinic was the only game in town, and they said they would like a mammogram machine because right now they had to go get an examination, and then they got, you know, kind of a prescription to go find a doctor to get the mammogram. Then they had to get back to the clinic in order for the doctor to tell them the results. A lot of these women couldn't drive anymore. They didn't have transportation. They said, we want a mammogram machine. So I fought very hard to get them a mammogram machine. And we had a ribbon cutting, and it was a pink mammogram machine. It was beautiful. And if mammogram machines could be beautiful, this one was. Right, yeah. And then so we're at this press conference, you know, the ribbon cutting, and I made a joke at the podium. I said, you know, next time we're going to get an MRI machine, and everybody clapped. Somebody came over to me afterwards and they said, you got to think bigger than an MRI machine. Yeah, right. They said, you need a VA hospital here. You've got over 200,000 veterans. And if somebody is sick, they got to go to Long Beach. And I started thinking about it and sat down with my staff and said, you know, we really need a VA hospital here. And at those days, I sat on the VA committee, and so I had access to the VA, became friendly with the VA secretary, there it was. In 2006, I know everybody makes awful remarks about earmarks, but in 2006, that VA hospital was the biggest earmark in that year's budget. It was $600 million. And we built the VA hospital, and now it's expanding, and they're building a separate women's pavilion because there's so many women. A
Fisher House there too.
A Fisher House for families that have loved ones in the hospital, so they have a place to stay. And I suspect in another 10, 20 years, that whole area is going to be built up, and that was the idea. And so I couldn't be more pleased with it.
When I was on board with you with this whole VA hospital back in the day, I didn't think that I would end up there several times.
Isn't that something? Yeah, I know. That's, when I was, I have a story akin to that. When I was student body president at UNLV, that's 71, 72, they created a committee to see if it would be feasible to have a law school at UNLV. And I was on the committee, and then I graduated, went on to law school, all that other stuff. Then eventually was appointed to the Board of Regents 20 years later. They put me back on the same committee. Nothing had been done. And I vowed that I wouldn't leave the Board of Regents until we had a law school at UNLV. 20 years after that, my son Max graduated from the law school. That
Unannounced to you.
I did not know that in 1971, but my son graduated from UNLV's Boyd School of Law. And how it's just like you and the VA. Never dreamed in a million years it would directly impact my family, but it did.
You've been in Vegas for years.
60.
You have done so many different things. And why, after being a congresswoman for 14 years, why would you want to come back here and become mayor of the city of Las Vegas?
That is an excellent question, and you're not the first person to ask it to me. Number one, as I said, I knew it was time for me to retire from Toro. When I leave in June, end of June, I will have been there almost 10 years. And I said, you know what, maybe time to leave on top when everybody loves me. The school is doing
everybody
great.
loves me.
Yes, it's not going to get better than this. Can't get better than this. And so then I started thinking, well, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? My family, my father passed at 93. I mean, I'm healthy. I still have a lot of energy. Say that again?
My condolences.
He led, you and I should lead that good of a life, had a great life. I'll mention this, right before he passed, he said to me, because he was in the hospice, he said, look, I have a great family. I have a great life. I've got no regrets. If I can pass and you can pass, if we could go at 93 with no regrets, that's a good life. Anyway, but thank you for that. And I said, what do I want to do? What is the thing that makes me most excited? Public service. And then I started thinking, well, going back to the Assembly or the State Senate, that would not be compatible with me.
No, you'd want to rule the whole roost.
Yeah, it would be. It's not a good fit anymore. And I started thinking, what would I like to do? And I said, I always wanted to be mayor of Las Vegas. Then I realized that Carolyn's term is coming to an end, or many terms are coming to an end. And I thought, I said, that would be perfect. I'm a great cheerleader for this city. I love this community. My congressional district completely overlapped the city. And I also had North Las Vegas. But there's no issue that the city is confronting that I haven't dealt with. And I know the community very well. And so I thought, you know what? I think I was meant to do this. And as long as my husband is still working and seeing patients, we're not leisure people. I'm never going to go, hang out at the beach. We're never going to go golfing. It's just not who we are. We come from working for people. And this is how I can give back to the community a little bit more.
So after 24 years of the Goodman, right?
Yes.
24 years of the Goodman, I believe Oscar endorsed you, didn't he?
He publicly, not formally. I wouldn't want to anyone to think that. And look, I would imagine that it's very important for Carolyn, and they're a team. I mean, they've been married for 100 years, and they're very much attuned to each other. Right. She has to count to 4 if she's going to get anything accomplished in the next year and a half on the city council. And so I would recommend that she not endorse anybody at this time.
Because she's still on the council and she needs the votes to get things done.
2 of her city council members are also running. Yeah. And so I think it's in the best interest of the city that she does not. But Oscar, obviously, we know each other well. When I was a teenager, he was president of the synagogue. And in those days, there was only one temple in Las Vegas. We knew each other very well, and we served together. He was mayor when I was in Congress. So we worked together very, very nicely. And I love him. Aside for that, I really do.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy. So just so the viewers and listeners understand, a lot of people aren't really truly aware of what the mayor of Las Vegas does, because it's a little bit of a unique situation with the mayor of Las Vegas. Can you explain to him exactly what the mayor of Las Vegas does?
Yes, of course. Now there's your formal responsibilities, and then what you do as mayor. Right. But we have a city manager form of city government, which means that the city manager is vested with a lot of power. The mayor has a bully pulpit. I mean, this is a world-class, internationally known city. So the mayor of Las Vegas should be not only an advocate for the city, but really have that bully pulpit that you are selling Las Vegas 24/7. In addition to that, you are, for all intents and purposes, the member of the city council. And you have to count to 4 before you get anything accomplished. And I think, look, I'd like to say, because this is a really great way to campaign, the city is an absolute mess, and I'm the only one that can come in there and save it. I can't do that. It's a well-run city. Not that there aren't issues and problems. And whenever you have a new leader, the same as when I went to Turo, it was a well-run institution. But with my skill set, we went to the next level. I'm hoping the same thing happens. Should I be lucky enough to be elected, that I can take us not necessarily in a new direction, but with my skill set, make an impression that's going to make a difference for the people of the city. And it's just, I just know that I'm a good administrator. I've got years of experience. I know the community well. I know Las Vegas. I know tourism. I know gaming because of the time I spent with Sheldon. But not only...
You were also with Wynn, too.
No.
Weren't you?
No.
Just with Sheldon?
No, but a lot of hotels think I was with them, but I wasn't.
That's funny.
I was president of the Nevada Hotel Motel Association.
Okay.
Not president, I'm sorry. I was chairman of the board, which means that I interacted with a lot of the big shot executives. Now, we were all starting together 30 years ago. But not only do I know the gaming part, and let's face it, it is the economic engine that drives this train, but I've also been a board member for the last 10 years of the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, whose mission is to bring new business to Las Vegas. And I'm very pro-business and I'm very pro-labor, as you know. I come from a union family.
What would you do differently, or what would you bring to the table as mayor for Las Vegas?
Well, what I would like to see, and what I've observed as a citizen, is that I think our city council is very siloed. Everybody watches out for their ward. And I would like to see, I think the next 10 years, are going to be explosive in the city of Las Vegas. Our biggest growth is going to come in our future.
But you have nowhere else to build except for Ward 6.
You know
which
what?
is the northwest area.
But there's a lot of property still in downtown Las Vegas owned by the Shea family, Tony's family. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine they would be holding it forever. So I think there will be lots of opportunities. There's a lot of young developers now that are developing downtown Las Vegas, and it's a very exciting place to be. I'm very. What I think is very important, though, is you need a master plan. Where are we going over the next 10 years? What type of city do we want to live in 10 years from now? And then all of the city council people have to buy into the strategic plan so that we know where we're going and we're all headed in the same direction.
I'm glad you bring that up because one of the things that I have been accused of by some of my more conservative friends of being an environmentalist now all of a sudden, which is a horrible thing, by the way, to look out for the environment.
Yeah, right.
But one of the things
I kind of like breathing clean air. Yeah.
One of the things that I've always kind of wondered is, and I think at first I wasn't really bought into it, but when Oscar when he was mayor and he started his whole redevelopment plan of downtown, I really like the idea of building up instead of out. Because that's one of the things that is always kind of confused me about Las Vegas is the urban sprawl part of it. Like there's an awful lot, in my opinion, there's an awful lot of resources that aren't being used as efficiently as they could be because everything is so far, everything just keeps being pushed further.
Urban sprawl. Yes,
the urban
right.
Sprawl. Are you more in favor of trying to build up instead of out?
I'm in favor of developing a strategic plan so that we know where we're going and how. I mean, I know that there's a project, I think it's called Harlem Nights or something, where they want to go 60 stories up in West Las Vegas. And a number of residents in that area are not keen on a 60-story building. It's not compatible with what exists currently. Right. So I think that you work with the people in the neighborhood. That's very important. And again, and I do believe that the next 10 years are going to be the most successful in Las Vegas. But if, what is it? A rising tide has to lift all boats. Right. If this isn't good for everyone in the neighborhood and everyone in the community, then we better think long and hard before we do anything. Because you got to bring everybody in and everybody has to be a part of the success of Las Vegas. And I say this, Steve, and again, you know me. When I was growing up, my dad was a waiter at the Sands, the old Sands Hotel. On a waiter's salary, he put a roof over our head. We bought a house for the first time right near Valley High School, the old cinder block homes. $33,000 it cost. I remember my dad got a VA loan. That was the first home we ever owned. We now owned a piece of the community. We belonged here. We had roots. We had roof over our head, food on the table.
Real estate.
Yeah, we had something. We owned something. Clothes on our back and 2 daughters through college and me through law school. Not bad on a waiter's salary. I think it's my responsibility to make sure that everybody coming up in Las Vegas now has the same opportunities that my family had when I was growing up. And nobody, look, my dad worked until he was 87 years old. He never begrudged. Oh, wow. Yeah. He did. Because, after he retired from the Sands, they developed the Rat Pack show, and they wanted the maitre d' from the old Rat Pack show. Oh, yeah. And my dad, towards the end of his career, was the maitre d' of the Copa Room. Oh, and Copa, so they wanted, to have that authentic feel. Yeah. So he... he wasn't doing anything. He retired in his 70s, and yet, when they had the opportunity to go back to work, he did, and he had the time of his life. It gave him purpose. Got up, and my dad, he comes from that generation greatest generation that unless you're dead, you get up for work. And so he would get himself up, get in a tuxedo. He'd make money, tip money and salary for doing what he was doing. And I think it gave him the opportunity to live to 93.
I want to talk a little bit about the courthouse. Back when they got rid of the old Regional Justice Center and they developed this brand new Regional Justice Center, the philosophy was a one-stop shop. You had Justice Court, you had Muni Court, you had District Court, you had the Supreme Court. Slowly but surely, different courts left. Supreme Court left. They got their own building on Clark. The Municipal Court recently left within the year, and they got their own building. I forget where it is. It's not far from City Hall. Yeah. Okay, but in that Municipal Court building that they have, and I don't know if you know what's going on, but if you go to the east side of the courthouse, you can't park. If you go to the south side of the courthouse, you can't park. Across the street from the south side of the courthouse is the Regional Transportation Commission. Only employees and customers could park there. Everybody else would get towed. On the west side of the courthouse, there are 10 only law enforcement spots. On the north side of the courthouse, which is the front of the courthouse, there are 5 law enforcement only spots. Across the street, there are 2 only law enforcement spots. And on Thursdays, they got food truck Thursdays that occupy those 2 spots across the street. So the closest place that you could park is at the City Hall garage, which is all the way past, across the street from Main. You got to go across the entire City Hall, walk down that block, cross another street, and then you got to cross another street to get to the courthouse. There are no ADA parking. There are no handicap parking at all. 0. And we wrote an article last week about it. As mayor, what would you do about that?
Well, I don't know.
You're just dumping on me now.
Hello. Well, as you know, I am an attorney by profession, but I have not been in the courthouse in a good 10 years, except for receptions if they have them. This is a brand new one. I'm unfamiliar with the challenge, but I could promise you that I will look into it.
Thank you.
But I have to tell you something. When now that I'm a declared candidate, I've been meeting with various businesses downtown and various groups. The number one concern, and I don't think this is any surprise to you, is crime. Number 2, affordable housing. Number 3, the homeless crisis. And those will be probably the issues that I will be concentrating on and highlighting in my campaign. Now, it is way too early. I don't think people want to be inundated with an 18-month campaign for mayor. So I'm, right now I'm finishing up my work with Turo. I'll be done June 30th, and then I'll devote full time to running for mayor. But right now, I think everyone needs a breather. And so those issues, and thank you for bringing it to my attention, I did not realize that. And I don't know, parking is tight all over. Even at Touro University, we did a survey a few years ago, for student satisfaction. What can we do to make your time with us better, more productive? Almost to a person, it was better parking. And I'm thinking, where am I? We abut 95. Where am I having more parking? But luckily, working with the city of Henderson, we were able to come up with a few solutions. Right under 95, we have a 94 space parking lot. And then next to it, and I'm talking abutting 95, and when I-11 comes through, we have to give it back. I hope that's not for a little while. We picked up another 54 spots. But even with that, parking is a large problem. Why? Because everybody including myself, wants to drive my car to wherever I'm going.
This is an easy fix,
And what is your suggestion? Because I read your article.
There's 17 spots. Just make 5 of them
I agree with
handicap
that.
and be done.
Yeah, no, that makes good sense to me, and that's the first thing I thought of, but I didn't think I knew enough about it. But certainly makes sense, and especially if you have a handicap sticker, it is hard to get around, and when it's 110 degrees,
especially in a wheelchair.
Yeah, that would be very
even
difficult.
worse.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because it was interesting because I was talking to a judge and I said, why do you guys have parking spots here? How come you can't park in the parking garage? Because she's like, well, I have a parking spot. And I'm like, yeah, no, you're not a handicapped, judge. And I'm not going to name the judge, but I'm like, right. Trust me, I know for a fact you're not handicapped. I'm like, you can park in that parking garage because there's parking in that garage specifically for judges for the Regional Justice Center. I'm like, how come you guys can't just park in that garage? And just why it's right on the corner of Lewis and Casino Center Drive. So yeah, it's not very far from something.
There. Would this be something that the county commission could easily correct? Or the city council? It doesn't seem like it would be is not exactly, brain surgery. Right. It seems like we'd be able to figure that out.
It's an easy fix.
We just think Steve and I honestly just think it's pretty ironic that a city courthouse of all places isn't ADA compliant.
Yeah, that is
there's a little bit of irony involved in that.
The courthouse supposed to be enforcing the laws, right? Not breaking them.
Well, if there's no law, they're not breaking it. Indeed. I think that's an easy fix. I think sometimes we get kind of fixated on things that we could handle, get them off the table and move on to things that are a whole lot more important. And that's what I plan to do.
So I took a look at the entire city of Las Vegas. And I know I mentioned earlier that the only place the city of Las Vegas can grow is the Northwest area, which is Ward 6. And you mentioned Tony Shays. And he had about 150, 200 properties I saw. There was one particular area that was under scrutiny. It was up by the Kyle Canyon area. Focus group wanted to build some massive condos and townhouses. And then Mount Charleston people were a little upset because I think they were talking about the natural beauty.
It's similar to what they were upset about when they started expanding too far at Red Rock.
Yeah. What is your position? You really can't really take one, but overall, what would be your position on building in the Kyle Canyon area, going towards Mount Charleston? Okay, well,
I can't be that specific, right. But I will say this. I am generally pro-growth. Especially as our community is going to continue to expand. We're getting the A's. I believe in a few years we'll have an NBA basketball team.
I think so.
I would almost bet money on that one. We're going to continue to develop. There are more people that are going to be coming to Las Vegas. They need housing. They need neighborhoods. So, but we also have the challenges of, again, urban sprawl and transportation and pollution that you're concerned about. And the big elephant in the room is water. Wow. Where are we getting now, I know that Lake Mead, the bathtub ring is a little smaller after all the rain. Yeah. So we got another 14 feet of water, which is 14 feet. Yeah. Wow. Unbelievable.
Good.
It is very good. But that's, unless we're going to have ridiculous rain every year from now on, that's probably not sustainable. But what are we going to do with less water, more people, more growth and development? And that's where master planning and a strategic plan for the city is so essential for our future. What do we want to be? I mean, everyone, there's no place I have ever gone in any place, either in the United States or internationally, that you tell them, you're in the back of a cab, they go, where are you from? I'm from Las Vegas. Oh my God. They get so excited. They want to know all about it. They have a brother that went to Vegas, an uncle, and
sister lost her house.
Yeah, right. No, that doesn't happen. But I was in a cab.
Here's my deed.
Right, take it.
8 black.
Right. Well, during the Tarkanian years, when I traveled, and I'll never forget, I was in the back of a cab in Tel Aviv, in Israel. And they're talking to me about where are you from? I said, well, we're from Las Vegas. Tarkanian. I mean, they, really? Honest to God.
Oh, yeah. When the rebels were big, man, in the late 80s, it was insane.
Here's a cab driver in Tel Aviv. And he knew Tarkanian, he knew Stacey Augman, he knew Larry Johnson. I said, oh my God, this is amazing. And then you realize what an impact Las Vegas has on the entire world. It's very exciting. And it's no accident that we have 40 million plus visitors. And, after the horrible COVID experience that we had, we're back. Vegas is back like crazy. And the only thing, I was talking to one of the casino CEOs, and they can't hire enough people. That's the problem they have right now, is they need more employees. Because tourists, they got plenty of, customers, plenty. And people are spending money. And I'll tell you something, although, at first I was not wild about the Raiders coming to Vegas. I was never a Raiders fan. I am now. But it has been such a boon to our community. And, if I went to a game, we were talking before the show, went to a game, and again, there were a lot of issues. People were concerned about parking, lots of things. But when we went to the game, first time we went to the game, my husband convinced me to leave the car at Red Rock Casino and take the bus. So, and at first I wasn't real keen on that, but I did it. First of all, the experience was incredible. The bus was waiting. We got on the bus. We knew half the people on the bus. In about 15 minutes, they dropped us off right at the front gate. We got into the stadium, into Allegiant. We got our seats, had a great time. We didn't win, but we had a great time. We came back out the same gate. There's the bus waiting for us. 15 minutes later, we're back at our car. It couldn't have been easier. And so I think, boy, that is really great.
I can't go there unless I'm in VIP with the free food and drinks.
Oh, that's impressive.
I can't go there unless I'm there, and I've been there twice.
Yeah, the lobster and the filet mignon, not a bad way to watch a game.
Two different hosts I was with.
Yeah,
and I want to thank Paul Potter and Ron Quinn.
Oh, I love Paul. He's just the best.
And you notice one is a Democrat, the other one is a Republican.
Well, because you got to cover both. Absolutely.
I got friends on 4 sides of the party. IAPs, I'm not forgetting you, and the Libertarians.
You know what? I want all my friends in high places. I think it's very important. So I love that. And again, we were talking earlier. If you would have told me when I was a kid that ice hockey would be the hottest ticket in town, I would have told you were nuts. And I love those games. They are fun. I've been up in the boxes and I've been down at the glass seats. And first of all, they're 2 different experiences, but what a hoot that is.
And Congresswoman Berkley, I know you're going to have to go, and we want to get you to come back on again.
You really want me again?
Yes, but I gotta ask this question, and the reason why I have to ask it is because I was told that half of the Las Vegas Municipal Court bench is going to be retiring. So I don't know when they're going to be retiring, if they're going to be retiring before their term is up or when their term is up, they won't file. I don't know. But let's just say they retire before their term is up and you have to, I don't know if you're going to appoint or you're going to do a special election, but let's just say you're appointing. What would you look for in a municipal court judge?
That is an excellent question.
Because I know City of Las Vegas, they will appoint if they have to.
Court is under the jurisdiction of the city.
What do you look for?
I would look for people that are competent in the law. But more than that, I mean, they all went to law school, and they're all, I guess, competent and working attorneys. But I would look at their character, their background, and how they view justice, because that is the most important thing. Muni court, justice court, you are interacting with the public on a daily basis, on an ongoing basis. Do you have a feel? Do you have a heart that understands what people are going through? How will you adjudicate those cases? And how do you feel about your job and what your responsibility is? And probably when I interviewed these candidates, your question to me would be the first question I would ask them. How would you run your courthouse? How would you run your courtroom? And how would you dispense justice? And if I think their answer is appropriate and right, then I would support that candidate. But again, they have to have the legal background. They have to have the experience. They have to have been in court themselves. People that, they're there. They're dealing with the public. They're there every single day. And, I've been very actively involved with the drug court and the veterans court. Okay. And to see and I'll mention the judge that I worked with, Harmony Letitia. Yes. Yep, for sure. My goddaughter. Just a goddaughter. Watching her interact with the veterans, recognizing that so many of them had a hard time transitioning back, got themselves into trouble, had addiction problems, and are willing to do this 18-month program and be scrutinized and try to move in a different direction. That's the type of judge I want on the bench.
Jim, you have anything else?
Yeah, I got a real hard-hitting question for you. So, in this campaign, are you going to expose your fellow your opposition candidates? Are you going to expose their youth and inexperience?
Well, I won't talk about their youth. I won't talk about their their youth and inexperience and immaturity if they don't talk about my maturity.
There you go. Okay.
So we'll just have to learn to live with that. I tell you the truth. I am so excited about this. It is almost a dream come true. Yeah. And to do public service and be able to sleep in my own bed at night, because as you know, I came home every weekend for 14 years, and that got to be pretty tough. To be able to put in 12, 14 hours a day and actually go home, that's nirvana to me. I just love it. And I always, when I was in Congress, I had the day job where you were in hearings and meetings all day long. And then I had the night job where I went to different receptions and I met with people. And this is a very social town. I mean, I am very excited about being even more involved than I am now, if that's humanly possible. But it's people need to see you. I know one thing that I really admire with the Goodmans, and I was talking to Oscar about this, in the almost 25 years that they will have served, they've never taken a vacation. I mean, this has been, whether you agree with their positions, don't agree with their positions, or them, the fact is they devoted their life. They love it. And that's the key to success.
Yeah. If they love it, it's not working.
Steve, if you don't love what you're doing, don't do it. I mean, it's just not worth it. But I am quite certain that I will love every minute of it.
That's why we do this.
Yeah, of course. I know. Yeah. I know. It gives you its purpose in life. Mm-hmm. You're doing good for other people, and it does good for you when you do that. So
we understand what's going on, and it's good to understand what's going on in the community than to just take somebody else's word for it.
Absolutely. I mean, look. I mean, politics, public service, not a spectator sport. No. You're either in it or you're not in it. And I am always astonished when I talk to people and they just, they not interested. Oh, I don't do that. I don't vote. I don't do this, that. Why not? Mm-hmm. I mean, in this country, you could actually do that. do it. I mean, that's how lucky we are as Americans that we have a voice and that we can vote. And if you don't take advantage of that, well, shame on you.
Exactly. Congresswoman Berkley, do you have anything else that we haven't covered that you want to say?
And no, you're very thorough, I have to say. No, thank you very much for having me. I look forward to coming back, and I appreciate
I'm going to do this, Congresswoman. Mark is going to zoom in on you, and then you could say whatever you want. Go to your website, vote for me, blah, 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 and your point of contact you want to give out as well.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. This is Shelley Berkley, and I'm absolutely delighted to have been on the show. I appreciate it. If you want to know more about me and about my candidacy for mayor, please go to shelleyberkley.formayor.com. That's Shelley Berkley, the number 4, mayor.com. There's all sorts of information on there. And if you don't already know me from all my years of service, please go online, go on my website and you'll learn everything that you want to know about me. And I hope comes November of 24, I will have your vote.
Well, Congresswoman Berkley, I want to thank you so much for coming on the program.
You.
Jim, thank you. Folks, that's former Congresswoman Shelley Berkley. She was a legislator. She was a regent. She's an attorney. I've known her personally for 19 years, and believe me, we speak our mind. We don't just say go along to get along. We actually speak our mind, and I'm telling you that this person here will make a superb mayor for the city of Las Vegas. This is Steve Sampson, Jim Jones for Veterans in Politics. Until next time.